Good evening, all. Thank you for taking out your time and joining the session. I would request everybody to go on mute and only unmute when you're speaking. From last couple of months, we've been discussing about what are the new normals, right? How the industry is going to respond, how the companies are going to respond, how the organizations are going to respond, how the government entities are going to respond. So one of the new normal is work from home, right? So if work from home is going to be a new normal, how are we going to adapt ourselves? How are we going to change our policies? What is the strategy we're going to bring in with respect to real estate? And if it is going to be a new normal, we'll be spending about close to 12 to 14 hours working. And what is that we need to be taking care from the economics point? Then we decided that we should bring in three perspectives to the discussion. From HR perspective on the policies, productivity and efficiency, and employee engagement. From the facility perspective, we not only manage now the facilities which are within the four walls, but now we're also managing the workplace which is virtual. And from the economic experts, we're going to hear from them what and how our workplace should be, right? So these are the perspective, and I would like to thank each of you for nominating yourself and being part of this. And just to introduce about IFMA is a not-for-profit organization which is existed in from last 40 years, focusing on education, credential programs, networking, benchmarking studies into facility management. And IFMA is spread across 180 countries and have chapters, and there are about close to 30,000 plus members. And Ergon is a workplace who provides workplace solutions, end-to-end solutions. They also have experience center in Indranagar. And I would like to invite all our panel members. Dr. Sridhar Raghavendra, who is an inspiration for many of us with respect to FM. And he is also author of two books, one of the book which is yet to release, the third one. And he is heading Logmein, APAC region, facilities, corporate real estate and projects, EHS and mobility. The concept Sridhar wants to bring out is work science concept, and he is the one who initiated the work science concept. And thank you, Sridhar, for accepting and being part of this. Welcome you.
Thanks, Mr. Raj. Thanks for having me here.
Yes. And Kavitha Nagarajan, who is the Director, Human Resource, Epicor Software, with about 20 plus years of experience. And thank you for accepting, Kavitha, because HR perspective is very, very important because we work in a collaborative environment. How the facilities and HR are going to integrate and come up with the strategy for work from. Thank you for being part of this.
Absolutely. Thanks, Vasu.
And Sriganesh, he is heading 3M, Africa and Middle East with about 22 plus years of experience. And we are going to hear from him from the manufacturing part. So we have IT sector, we have manufacturing, and we're going to have a diverse diversity in the thought process in the way we're going to manage. Welcome, Sriganesh.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you.
Harikrishnan Mohan Kumar, who is the Director, Real Estate and Facilities and Operations, UST Global, with about 20 years of experience. Welcome, Hari. Look forward for your insights.
Thank you, Basu, for inviting and being part. Thank you.
And welcome Arun Kumar SL, good friend of mine with about 20 years of experience. Now it's a ServiceNow with about 20 years of experience. Again, welcome Arun.
Thank you, Basu. Thank you.
Dr. Mona Pankaj, who is the founder and CEO of ErgoCure India, and we're going to hear from her on the research she has done, basically what and how. We're going to listen from her with respect to economic. Welcome, Mona. And Dr. Arundhati, who is a researcher, Ph.D. in economics and human factors. Welcome, Dr. Arundhati.
Thank you, Basu.
And as we go through these panel discussions, there will be a lot of insight and experience they'll be sharing. And also, this is not something that which has already happened. This is something that we're also going to forecast what could be our actions we're going to take from the future perspective and assuming things, right? So basically, forecasting will be also be done, and all the discussions are the experience and the insights of individuals. This is a disclaimer. I want to make a point that it is, though they represent the larger organization, all the discussion and the points are their insights and their experience they'll be sharing. So now I would hand over to Dr. Sridhar to set the context and take it forward.
Thanks, Mr. Raj. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. The whole effort of this session would be to oplomb the concept of work science, and as rightly said by Basuraj, every one of us are doing, knowingly or unknowingly, practicing the science within our workplace ecosystem. But considering that the elite panel that we have in terms of each one of them come from a different spectrum with with their experience, research, practice, consulting, enabling, so I think this is a right forum that we discuss more in terms of the work science, the work from home as a new normal, the work science concept. Just to set this context, we together are combating the unprecedented challenge of COVID-19. The pandemic has challenged human life across the world. I think everybody are aware about it, and I'm sure every one of us are working towards delineating with care, with within the business community towards normalization and reboot, the organization priority or the business priority. So straight away going into the topic, the work science or the new normal, work from home. I would put across a question to all the panel members. You can take 1 minute of your time to explain your thoughts and your views on this particular subject. How is science used in workplace, in our world of workplace today, and work science as a new normal and a return to office? What is your perspective on this?
Maybe I
Kavitha? Yeah,
Yeah.
Kavitha, you can take it.
All right, thanks, Sridhar. So I think as a country, what we have been deeply rooted is our traditional value system. And despite the progress with technology, infrastructure, access to information, we still remain a fairly consistent population when it comes to working from an office space. So what we have learned through this pandemic is that as organizations, we've had to completely re-engineer our thought process from having our entire workforce adapt to remote working environment. And we've had to do this quickly. So this situation is not likely to return to what we had in the pre-COVID times, right? And even if it does, the thinking in terms of what the science is or everything that we do and practice will have to change to this new normal, that what we are calling. And remote working is here to stay, whether we like it or not. I think it's just become part of our DNA now, and it will continue to be the norm going forward. So what organizations should essentially look at is how do we build resilience and capability and adaptability to sustain through these type of crisis situations, and then sail through these unprecedented times. So just an example is, for example, digital skills, right? The need remains the same, but what has changed is the speed and the volume in which they are required. So using science as the basis for building resilient workplaces is a no-brainer. So whether it's human behavior, whether it's leadership, whether it's leveraging technology, all of it will need to be backed by what we call as the work science to move forward. So that's my 2 bits.
Excellent. I think there are a couple of things that you brought it out. One is the resilience. The other one is the new normal is here to stay, and also the adaptability in terms of the new normal as such. Dr. Arundhati, I go to you again. The same question to you. How is science used in workplace now across the world today, and at what it means as a work science in the new normal or the return to office? You're on mute.
Yeah, thanks for asking this. And I think Kavitha has already pointed out like few of the main things that are related to this work science concept. So in the face of a pandemic like this, many people are now being asked to perform work duties from their home, definitely. And this includes both the employees who are already accustomed to this work from home concept, and few of them who are not at all and has never worked from their home. So the difference lies. So the people who are accustomed to this, they have a dedicated home space in their in their home, and people who have never worked from their home, so they lack in such kind of dedicated spaces. So it is an opportune time to review some of the key ergonomic principles. Ergonomic principles means the work science principles again, to help and to ensure that the person who is working from home are in a safe and productive, they are working in a safe and productive manner, and do not incur a lot of soreness in their body, or a lot of body pains or musculoskeletal problems or injuries that normally they face while they are in their working conditions in their office. So MSDs are both common, like whether you are working in the office, whether you are working in your place, like in your home. So it is very common, and it is very costly also. Like recent data, like and US data I'm talking about, like MSDs are the single largest category of workplace injuries alone, and are responsible for almost at least 30% of all workers' compensations costs. It is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so I think, so if we look into all these matters now, so the ergonomic risk factors that we are talking about, it can be ergonomic risk factors as well as the personal risk factors. So the ergonomic risk factors that we can consider here are the forces, the repetitions, all this.
Arundhati, I think we'll touch upon that as and when we go through more from a work science perspective. Thanks for that input, in terms of the world of workplace as a work science in this pandemic era. I straight away go to Hari. Hari, again, the same question to you. How is science used in the world of workplace today, and more so with regard to work science as a new normal or a return to office?
Yeah, thank you, Sridhar. So if you look at the complete concept as I speak on a facility standpoint, has been changed drastically after the COVID scenario has come in. Earlier, it was more focusing on the operation stand.
Hari, I think we lost you. Arun,
now it has been prioritized from a place to a people. People has been given the focus. The importance is on the safety aspect of the employees, which is of paramount importance. If you look at earlier, the employees used to come to office, the office was vibrant. Now the facility managers completely have to focus on how we have to make sure that the office environment is safe and people can come back and work in a place where the primary importance is given for people rather than place or the office. So that is what the concept is going
Thanks,
forward.
Arun, on the same point, same perspective.
Almost yes, but I wanted to say a bit more context to it. Actually, in my opinion, the work science is defined as a relationship of energy. Whatever the work is executed remotely in the from the home during the pandemic situation, there's a lot of energy has to be adopted and has to be added to the work that is executed, right? So the new norm of work from home, then the science is basically an energy. That's what I would feel.
Great. Dr. Mona?
Yeah. So I feel the work science, otherwise, is a very old concept, right from the Stone Age, where we can go back and visualize the human beings maybe contouring their stone as a tool. So basically, they try to adapt their environment to make their work easy, right? And since then, it has been ever changing. The word ergonomics primarily it was coined by a Polish scholar. He's called Wojciech Jastrzębski, and it was coined in 1857, but it became more popular around 1997 when the book was converted into or translated in English. So so by the heart of it, ergonomics has been there, but the work science concept. So ergonomics primarily is a Greek word, which means laws of work, and that means science. So the literal translation of that book was it's ergonomics, or the science of work, basically. It was called risk ergonomy, and it is based upon the truths drawn from science, from the science of nature. So the heart of it is primarily ever changing to the needs of that current work population. And since every person is different, every work demand is different, it has always been evolving. And so with the COVID times, I think it again needs a little bit of more polishing. So that is the context.
Thanks, Doctor. I think thanks for setting that context in terms of how the word ergonomics came into play as a work science. Sriganesh.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sridhar. I just want to start with asking the very popular question: am I audible? Just for some, yeah. Okay, let me just give this work science concept. I just want to review everyone who are on the call, just to go back how this whole office setup started. The office setup started, the whole office emerged because of the Industrial Revolution 200 years back. The whole concept, because people came from different places to cities to make sure they utilize the powered machines. So people moved from different places to a particular city so that they can come every day morning and go. So that is the first logic behind it. So to manage these factories, the offices were set up. These offices were set up to manage these factories. Despite being after 200 years also, these offices exist. Even though internet, I just want to underline internet. Internet is a big thing which happened because the way we could communicate, the way we could share documents. Despite this, there has been a big change in terms of the office setting. Why I'm talking about it, that's the first question I want to leave with everyone, saying that this whole new work science concept is challenging the office space utilization. One, because it is very expensive. Two, it becomes very ineffective in this whole process. That's the first point I want to talk. Second thing I want to leave from a work science concept is about the time itself. When the time was selling, as per the factories, everyone had to log in and log out at the same time. What this whole the new normal of the work science is challenging the time itself. That means we are not worried about what time you log in or log out, but what is the productivity which you are bringing. So few things this whole new normal or work science is thinking is, first one is, what is the basis of office? The utilization of time and the concept of the work week itself is going. So I want to leave this to the team to see how we talk. This is all I want to talk from a work science concept perspective, Sridhar.
I think it's a valid point that you brought in, as part of the work science. Kavitha, straight away from a HR perspective, I move on to you. During the new normal of the return to office as a work science, what is the approach towards policy re-engineering for, let us say, work from home or leave management or social engagement as part of the work science is concerned?
Sure, Sridhar. So with the onset of this COVID-19 pandemic, I think all of us need to acknowledge the fact that we cannot continue the way things were being done before. So obviously, the whole work science concept that we are discussing today evolves around this. What are the changes? What is the approach? How do we re-engineer the entire concept of working? for organizations. So many organizations that I know of have been looking at pulse surveys within their organization pool to understand what priorities or what sort of competencies should be focused on, especially from an HR perspective. So coming from my own fraternity. So the survey results show that a lot of priorities and policies revolve around what we have been doing before from a work from office perspective, but now kind of really moving it to a remote working perspective. So the key things that we need to look at from a way of how do we approach this entire work science concept. The first one being focus on reskilling and upskilling employees to prepare them to work remotely, because we needed to adapt to this crisis almost overnight. That has become prevalent now, especially with all of the social distancing norms, and that's going to continue. So companies have no choice but to prepare their employees for this new normal, and there's no looking back. So work from home is going to stay, and preparing these employees to work remotely will become, the key priority from an HR function standpoint. The second one is focus on digitization of people management processes and data. So embracing technology is not just a trend anymore, it is a necessity. Today, HR is, if you look at it from the perspective of technology, we are becoming a pioneer of change to ensure that employees stay safe. We continue in terms of employees having support in terms of business continuity and deliverables. So ensuring digitization of people processes will ensure that the employee life cycle at every stage is managed effectively, especially in a remote working setup. The third point is building a future-ready workforce. So this is the key, because we are talking about behavioral competencies like resilience. We talked about that. We talked about adaptability, talked about agility. So really, how can we enable our employees to get better with these skills in terms of coping with the challenging times? So especially in the current remote working scenario, I think competencies like collaborative relationships within teams, with clients have become extremely critical. So I think this is one of the key factors or the key competencies we need to focus on. Then leadership training. Managing virtual teams has become another key aspect for leaders in the organization. Especially during this current pandemic, I think people as leaders, we need to navigate and make sure that employees are aware and have the right tools in place to work and enhance their productivity. So keeping this in mind, HR will now have to focus more on training leadership on managing teams virtually. And the last point that I wanted to make this thing is employee safety, health, and wellness. And I know we can talk about it in different ways and forms, but I think this is again very important, considering that we have such an uncertain time going forward, and everything will have to be taken in an aspect of how do we take care of ourselves individually, both from an emotional and physical well-being. And what we are doing as organizations to support our employees will go a long way.
Great. I think, a couple of points that you brought in, I think, it's a so valid to the current scenario. I think everybody are focusing more in terms of enabling those nuts and bolts to get the engine moving as part of our business operation is concerned. Hari, I come to you from a facility perspective. What are the challenges during pre and post COVID from a business enabling function point of view or a perspective, more from a workplace hygiene or protocol, COVID controls or normalization plan, communication strategy or awareness credence? What is your challenges has been more from a business enabling in terms of rebooting the business is concerned?
Okay, so if you look at the pre-COVID, the main challenges were addressing the employee concerns and also proactively dealing with the facility-related issues and sorting it out so that employees can be given a world-class facility to work. On a post-COVID scenario, the complete the perspective has been changed on a facility manager's kind of work that need to be done. If you look at starting from arranging the assets for them to work from home, connectivity at home, moving of the work desktops or laptops, providing them with the required bandwidth for them to operate from the residence, even for creating them a home office has become part of the facility manager scope. And if you look at on a safety and hygiene standpoint, starting from the entry point, we may have to look at the touch points need to be reduced when an employee comes in for collecting or coming to office. The percentage of employees who are going to work in the office during the COVID scenario, wherein they have to be given a touch-free sensors or sanitizing the facilities, and also the display boards wherein what they have to be done, the social distancing, the norms that need to be displayed, the need to be equipped with people rather than the employee being touching the switches and other things. Apart from that, the new norm of work near office is something which has come in, wherein people have connectivity. The organizations are finding places where near to the house so that employees can go and take the video conferencing facilities. So these are some of the challenges which we see, and also getting back the assets is another thing which we from a facility standpoint are finding it difficult. But once issued the asset, the people who are moving out of the accounts or projects, getting back to the office for reissuing is another challenge, wherein the courier service is not available. So those are the aspects which we find as a challenge, including the connectivity and the power outage, which is going to be a frequent infrastructure challenge in India.
Great. Dr. Mohan, I come to you from an ergonomic perspective. I think most of the time, I think this question keeps coming up. Since where home furnitures are not designed for work, right? Issues and challenges, and what is the risk factor, during this new normal or the work science perspective? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So absolutely. So people are actually facing this kind of problems because, like you said, the facilities is trying to provide as much as comfortable environment for people at home, but maybe not all companies are able to do that, or even the time gap between the raised requisition and the procurement, it may take time. So primarily what happens is it's not only about the workstation or that particular furniture, it is about the entire office that was built in a certain manner, especially the most thought after office designs. So they will not only take care of the furniture requirements, they'll also look after the entire ambience. So basically your lighting, your noise controls, the offices are generally carpeted. I'm talking about higher class offices, carpeted. So other environmental factors are also ideally taken care. The workstation is one of the factors, obviously, but yes, it is important. But see, simple thing like the office chair, even if it's a basic ergonomic chair, it would have a certain amount of firmness, a certain amount of flexibility. At least you can lean back for a while. In a plastic chair or a dining table chair, you may not have that leaning back option. A little bit of softness in the chair. I'm just taking one example of a chair.
See,
so
the reason why I'm asking this is that,
yeah,
for us, usually ergonomic means, one simple way of looking at it is self-adjustment in a workplace, right? But here,
yes,
seeing that people are working from home, those, that is going to be a biggest challenge.
Right. So there is noise coming from there, mixy playing and children fighting and, things like that. So noise, vibrations, these are all other factors. But I said, even if you're considering only ergonomic furniture, I'm saying the difference between only a chair that you're using at home and at office, it makes a huge lot of difference. People are sitting for more hours because many people have been chucked out of their jobs, and the few who are remaining are taking more workload. So 13-14 hours of continuous work, and with no ergonomic application knowledge. So behavioral knowledge is also not there. So they're not even standing or walking during the day and trying to finish their work. I have seen cases who have developed even clots in the legs just because of lack of circulation, and that clot can be actually dangerous to life, because if that clot travels to brain or heart, it is life threatening. So not only neck pains and back pains, it could go to that level. So that is the risk factor.
Great. Arun, I come to you again. What are the challenges? I would rather put it this way: how do organizations should prepare for the change during the new normal or the return to office? You're on mute.
My apologies. Thank you, Dr. Sridhar. The change is constant. Pre-COVID and post-COVID, post-COVID, the change has called for a big role to play differently for each one of us. The change is an important aspect at this point in time. Everybody are looking at. Change has been just not from only services point of view, considering there are various other aspects into the corporate real estate, then day-to-day services that we used to extend for employees, and the employee engagement that we used to manage, the stakeholder engagement, the kind of infrastructure that we used to have in the office, and then many more under the umbrella of corporate real estate. So having said that, now how companies are getting prepared, how companies have to look at the change mainly is, how do we make sure that we minimize the waste? How do we make sure we bring in more visibility, continue to engage employees while they're working from home? How do we make sure that we utilize the available infrastructure with a limited infrastructure which is available during the pandemic situation? So some of these things are very, very important. How do we make sure that return to office, when people come back to office, how does it work, and what are the important aspects that we need to consider? Some of these things are very, very important post-COVID from a change point of view.
Great. Sri, I come to you from a HR perspective. I know there's been a lot of planning and rollout that has been happening, and the challenge around the new normal is in terms of making sure that there is enough and more employee engagement, initiatives and programs being rolled out, and more from a social engagement and from a business engagement perspective. So how one can improve on those aspects? What are those best practices?
Okay, thank you, Sridhar. Kavitha spoke about a lot of these things, but I'll try to summarize. The first most important thing for me, from my experience and what organizations are doing, is listening to employees. Listening to the employees becomes the topmost one. Listening to them continuously. That's the first most important thing. People are doing pulse surveys, employee surveys. Many organizations, I can talk about many technology companies, including ours, doing a monthly employee survey to understand what they're feeling. That's the first important thing. Listen to the employees. Listen to what they're telling. Second important thing, when many of the organizations, when I was doing some research on this, the biggest connecting factor is the supervisor or your manager. So many organizations should and need to sensitize managers. So that means if you want to improve the engagement, the supervisors play a very, very important role. That's the most important thing. Many organizations, I would suggest them to do sensitization programs for your supervisor. Very important. How do you handle communication? The third important thing I would leave it with employee well-being as a whole. because we are talking about employee experience. When you are talking about experience, many there are 3 levels to it. First is the technology. Many companies don't have those technology. How do we digitize certain processes? The technology becomes very, very important. Second thing is the physical setup. Like many of Arun, Hari, everyone are talking about giving computers, infrastructure. So this becomes very important. The third important thing is the emotional quotient we are talking about. Not only talking about sitting through the whole process, emotional quotient, adversity quotient. How do I manage these things? So if organization can focus on these things, it will make a huge impact from an employee perspective. Last but not the least, I'm talking about reskilling and upskilling. Reskilling is not just about functional reskilling. We are talking about how do you reskill yourself to manage home, manage family, manage the entire change which is happening continuously. So I want to lead these 3 things. One is listening to employees, sensitizing supervisor, looking at employee well-being, and reskilling and upskilling becomes very important from an emotional and adverse quotient perspective. These are the few tips for employees.
I think you rightly said, especially when it comes to emotional quotient, I think, that is a big vacuum that is get created, because lack of peer interactions or being, there's lack of social engagement and things like that. So I think, a very good point you brought in, Sriganesh. Dr. Arundhati, I come to you from an ergonomic perspective. Before I ask, I just got a hold on a data on a survey that happened very recently, done by the what do you call wellness and I think it is emotional wellness platform called Your Dost. So they did a survey across Pan India to measure the stress level during this new normal or the pandemic, and there are some data that they've come out with more to do with when you look from a working professional rose by 35%. From a city perspective, Bangalore 37% stress levels have gone up. Mumbai 47% stress levels have gone up. Chennai 23%. NCR 35. Overall Pan India 37. I'm talking more from a working professional spectrum. These are the numbers. But when you look from both professional and students across India, they talk about 48% spike in stress level due to COVID lockdown and the new normal in the corporate world. So my question to you is, what are the methods to measure health and safety during new normal as a behavior? Any case studies and data that you can do a representation around this? You're on mute.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So research I did, it's a pre-COVID research, definitely, with one of the company with employees, 234 employees. So according to the survey, we did an ergonomic survey on that, we found that about 68% out of that particular number of employees were suffering from MSDs as well as the psychosocial problems in their workplace. I'm talking about the pre-COVID condition. Okay, so when we did that study, we followed few methods. Like for the ergonomic analysis part, we divided into 3 aspects. It's the physical aspects. One is the cognitive aspects that you are talking right now. It's more related to the mental health of the employees, and the other one is the organizational aspects. So we followed a method and this first we did, it's a 4-step methods. First we did a proper understanding of the ergonomic aspects of the whole workspace. Okay, so then recognizing the ergonomic risk factors, then the head to toe ergonomic, the performance, the ergonomic considerations of each and every employee, and finally a systemic approach to an ergonomic evaluation or improvement process, we can say. So a lot of assessment tools we used. So now the thing is, the tools that we used in a pre-COVID condition, that tools, if proper training can be given with some according to the human resources department, if they can just review the current employee assistant program in a weekly basis and providing a proper training to how to make a self-assessment of their mental health as well as their physical health when they are working remotely. So few tools I'm just mentioning, probably many of you are aware of that. It's a Nordic musculoskeletal questionnaire, the RULA, the REBA, the quick exposure checklist, the VAST scores, the BORG scales. These are the few assessment tools that are available, which can be used by the employees as well. We don't need someone to perform all this analysis when we are working at a remote condition. So if we can give them a proper training through an assistance program, then it will be easier for us to assess their physical as well as the mental health. And for the psychosocial aspects also, the two famous tools that we use is the Copenhagen Psychosocial Questionnaire and the Mental Injury Toolkit. This is by the Occupational Health Clinic of the Ontario workers. So these are the two very widely used questionnaires that we normally do. So if we can perform this on a weekly basis and update ourselves, from the organizational perspective I'm talking about, then I think it will be easier for us to boost up their mental as well as the physical confidence. So
but again, Doctor, what happens is that, from a diagnostic perspective, right? When you look at this, what you measure is what you end up managing at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
So these are all more of a deep stick analysis that comes out, as part of the methods and scientific approach as part of the work science itself. But what matters most is that, what are we going to do with these numbers, right? These measurements, especially when we are in a workplace environment, it is a different, approach altogether. But when we are in a new normal, right, how exactly the diagnostic happens from your perspective?
No, the thing is, see, when you are working in your place, like in your house, it's a comfort zone for you, for any employee. And when you are working in an office scenario, that is something totally different, and you cannot arrange the whole workspace according to your own will, right? So you need to work according to the organization with which you are working. So in that case, there also the factors remains the same. The physical factors, the cognitive factors, all these things are remaining same. The only thing, how you are going to assess that assessment is being done by the organization, if they are collaborating with some consulting firm or something. The same thing they are doing when their employees are working in a remote condition. The same thing they are doing. They just want to keep a balance of this thing. So in that case, if they are just hire some consultancy, like if they can just collaborate with some consultancy agents, or maybe directly they can hire someone in their offices who can take care of all these aspects and just provide a weekly or a monthly training program, ergonomic training program for their employees. That can be remotely done. That we are doing everything virtually nowadays, right? So the tools that just now I discussed, because I mentioned those tools because it is actually valid when you are working in the office as well as in your home. So you can just perform that self-assessment on your own. So for that result I'm talking about, when we did the study, it's a 1-year whole study. So after 6 months, when we just made another reassessment of that, from 68%, the reported problems reduced directly to 49%, and then after 1 year it reduced to 31%. I'm not telling it's been reduced like to 0%, but at least it has reduced from 68 to 31% over the year. So now you can just check if you are just performing the same thing with the employees who are working remotely. So during the pandemic condition, this the same result I guess you will be getting. So it's just the awareness program along with all these things.
I understand. Dr. Kavitha, do you, from a productivity perspective, do you think that these data would help from a HR perspective to analyze the healthness of the workforce? What Dr. Arundhati is talking about?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, to her point, I think the work aspect remains the same, whether you're performing it virtually or from a physical location. So yeah, in terms of understanding the productivity, what we need to really look at is, a changing mindset. I think traditionally, like, some of us talked about, we are so used to coming into an office, seeing each other face to face, and managers tend to be resistant to allowing employees to work from home. Now that's no more. That's not a choice as such. I mean, it has become the norm. So in terms of how do you manage remote employees then, these are some of the measures that we can essentially take. And, in terms of all of these, I mean, I was just looking up some research to understand, okay, what people are talking about, what kind of research metrics are there. And there is definitely a positive sign to employees moving away from a particular geographical location in terms of increasing their productivity. I mean, there's a Harvard Business School study that talks about increase in productivity by an additional 4.4%, etc. So there are many studies that way. But what essentially we need to look at as organizations is that we need to shift our focus away from the time-focused accountability, rather than fixating on, talked about somebody coming in, punching out kind of thing. I think that focus or that kind of accountability, we need to move away from that. What we need to focus on, what do we want to get, what do we want to get done? How do we deliver it? Remote working is all about deliverables, right? So it doesn't really mesh with the time tracking part of it, but more in terms of what can you deliver.
Absolutely. I think, you rightly said it. I take the cue from Sriganesh. He was talking about, reskilling and, supervisor and manager. Kavitha, again, back to you. From a virtual leadership perspective, what are the key important lesson that, the leader needs to do, be part of the transition? What are those, key lessons?
I think, Sriganesh made a mention about listening. So I think all organizations need to be really understanding what the pulse of their employee base is at this point, because there could be different needs for different organizations, and each one of us will have a different strategy in terms of how do we want to approach it. So whether it's, looking at different technologies, whether it's looking at different platforms, whether it's your own behavior in terms of how do you want to lead and manage your team, I think every aspect can be designed based on what employees are telling you. So I think the key is there in terms of listening. The second piece is in terms of communication. I think this has become the critical factor. And traditionally, we are so used to coming into an office, into a conference room, and then, you're telling everybody what key deliverables are, whatever that is. Now it has moved to a virtual platform. So you need to be as communicative and as clear and concise as you can. So in terms of managing virtually, this part is so essential as a leader. How are you communicating your business decisions to your deliverables, to your goals, to even recognizing employees for performance metrics, right? So I think that becomes the key. Even saying, as simple as getting on a call every morning to just have a 5-minute touch point in terms of just the personal aspects of an employee's life makes a big difference in their productivity. So the aspects, I think, will become more essential from a virtual management for any leader in any organization.
Great. Arun, again, coming back to you, as the old saying goes, all the bad news should take the elevator and all the good news should take the stairs. During this new normal or the work science, from a communication strategy or from channelizing the communication, what is or what could be implemented during the pre and post?
Okay,
what
great.
are those important key factors as a credence?
Okay, thank you, Sridhar. Probably I'll cover the post-COVID, which is very important. That's because many of us know in the pre, how do we manage our customers, how do we manage our stakeholder, how do we manage our employee engagement, and this is basically from a communications point of view. So post-COVID, the communication, everybody, all my co-panelists touched upon it. Post-COVID, the communication has been playing a very imperative. It's a very big imperative in the organization. So communication has various various stages actually. If you want to talk about it, communication, how do you keep your employees updated about what's happening in the city, within the office, within our country, within our region, and in our global offices? How are we doing as an organization? And then how do we make sure that employee is priority, is communicated well about employees priority, and how do we focus more on employee well-being? And then how do we communicate the regular updates about our return to workplace? How do we engage employees more? How do we make employees more accountable? How do we make sure that communicate about the employee growth while they're working from home? And how do they balance between the working from home and with the family well-being? So these are some of the important things I would comment from a communication channel point of view, which has become very, very important. On some of the data metrics that I wanted to share, which is recently I heard from one of the Indian company doing a survey. About 50% of the people, while taking the survey, responded saying that they are psychologically unattached to their work and the company while they are working from home. That's because in case if there is no constant communication, in case if there is no connect happening between the leadership and between the employees, right? So that's where employees do feel that they're unattached to the company work culture, and then the developments which are happening in the organization. And about 50% of the people, rest 50% of the people also responded saying that it has become a very difficulty in managing the work-life balance between the household demands, and then also the demands are coming from their office. So while these percentages have come in, while this survey has come in, the communication plays a very, very important role in every organization for everybody in order to make sure that there's a constant engagement, there's a constant relationship between the employee and the organization.
Great. Dr. Mona, I come to you. We've been talking about ergonomics and the impact and things like that. Can you take us through the types of the domains around the ergonomic is concerned, and also in terms of what are those anthropometrics syndromes that you see as a during your practice from during this new normal is concerned? You're on mute. You're on mute again. Doctor, you're on mute, I suppose. Okay. Dr. Arundhati, you want to take that? You're on mute again.
You are talking about. If you can just specify the different domains you were talking about regarding what you are asking that. So that's what I'm.
More from an ergonomic perspective, type of domain in the ergonomics, and as part of your consulting in practice, from an anthropometric point of view, what is that you see?
So the anthropometric point, I have already discussed the physical factors. Okay, so again, the ergo accessories or ergonomic accessories or the ergonomic furnitures, or maybe the ergonomic equipments and tools we use when we are in our workspace. So depending on what kind of accessories you are using, whether they are ergonomic accessories or not, and whether they are built considering your body measurements. your body dimensions. There's very good example we can give. Already Dr. Mona has talked about that regarding the office chairs, office tables, and the display heights also. Display heights, all these factors are coming under anthropometric measurements only. So I guess she's here, so she can explain it
Mona,
a little
I
bit.
think Doctor, you can talk about Mona more from a human engineering and human factor and human behavior.
Yeah, apologies for the internet connectivity issue. Yeah, so basically, we, as every human being is different, I think the anthropometry basically talks about human factors, how tall one is, how obese one is, how thin one is. So based on that, and if you're talking about a child, or you're talking about a housewife, you're talking about a CEO, you're talking about an actor, each factor has to be taken into consideration while we prescribe any ergonomic accessory or any particular preventive measure. So like we said, it would apply to each one, whether an actor is working from home or a CEO is working from home. So everybody is needs this. So it's not only about having that right workstation, but also about other behavior changes that need to be taught. So the training plays a big role. And like we know that there are 3 types in which we could intervene. One is physical ergonomics, and then cognitive, and then organizational. So basically what HR is doing is organizational ergonomics, when you're talking to their employees to help them understand their stress levels. So even stress management comes under ergonomics. So primarily the design of the office, everything. So little changes like how do we design our own workstation at home. Okay, so for example, if I have to sit in my home environment, I may just have to probably put a blanket, not a wobbly cushion underneath. Okay, so that I get a little bit firmness and also a little bit of support. Then we could put a cushion. So basically using of such available resources, to a cushion to support your back, or something like this, a neck pillow, while you could just relax, taking some doing certain stretches while, even if you're in the middle of a call or something, avoiding contact pores, for example. Right, so this I can see a beautiful video. And yes, the laptop riser, how to use it. Yes, beautiful, I'm loving this. So as soon as if she's using a laptop riser, the idea of using an external keyboard, that has to be suggested. Otherwise people say I have a laptop riser, and then they come back with a severe neck spasm. So that is primarily because they're rising up to the laptop riser's keyboard, the laptop's keyboard. So this position is giving them that constant action of muscles. So break, when we take everybody knows you have to take a break, but actually break is not coming off from work. It is primarily to give you more productivity once you just come out of that particular muscle action. So for example, your muscle has been working in this fashion for a long time. Just going back, this is a break for the muscle. Just doing this is a change of action. Not holding the mouse when we are not using it is a change of action. Giving a break to your eyes when you're not reading anything into the screen is a change of action for that muscle. Moving the eyes from here to the distant object is a very small exercise that we cover under the 20-20-20 rule. That's a break. Absolutely. Basically. So when we say breaks, all these measures, they don't really take out any different time from your work schedule, but it is actually incorporated throughout your day, and that is making you more comfortable and hence more productive. So the employee productivity increases. As a person, your productivity increases, and since everybody is working fine, the company is benefited. That's how it is taken.
Great. Hari, I come to you quickly on the governance now, especially during the post-COVID, looking at how important to have a governance during the post-COVID, and what are those efforts, looked at in terms of plugging in that governance? What are the kinds of governance post-COVID that you would look at?
Thanks, Sridhar. So if you look at, many organizations have moved from a strategic phase of planning, return to the office, into a tactical phase of preparing workplaces for their return. But the question is, when are we planning to come back? As you know, that companies have done a lot of surveys with their employees 2 months back, and most of the employees were not willing to come back. Now the situation is changing. After the 5 months time, employees have responded in a very, very different way, that employees have to come back to office. So how you reboot, or how you make the changes for the employees to be confident in coming back is what is very paramount importance. If you look at employees, organizations should be more flexible, and also should come up with a strategy of what the safety aspects that need to be taken care when the employees are brought back to the office, especially on a social distancing compliance, workplace density, what they need to look at, sanitization processes, fixed asset management, how they manage it, environmental quality, like how the air quality can be checked, and also the hoteling processes and contamination response plan which they have. And these things need to be communicated. And the governance facilities team should be part of the governance committee, and how an infected person, if he's come to the office, need to be taken care. What are the precautionary measures that need to be taken inside the office, so that overall the employee confidence can be built, bringing back the employees back to the office. So if you look at, as I mentioned earlier, the emphasis or the priority is given on people over place in the workplace, and even the KPIs will be revolving around these key areas. So
okay, I think, Hari, hold your thought. I think we are running out of time. One quick question to both Kavitha and Sri. How is the equitable managed, especially with inclusion and diversity, environment free for microaggression within the workplace and beyond during pre and post COVID? Either Anita or Sri can take it.
Yeah, Sri, do you want to take that?
Yeah, Kavitha, I will give my first initial thoughts. He talked about diversity, especially Sridhar touched upon. See, one of the studies which we did was in this COVID situation, number of women employees who lost their jobs across. I was giving some research work, because most of the women are into face-to-face jobs, have lost their jobs. So we are talking about diversity. Gender diversity becomes very, very important, especially from an Indian context perspective and many other places, because I work in Middle East and Africa. So from a diversity perspective, organizations need to look at and communicate essentially, and these kind of things become very important. And second point is, since I work out of Dubai and manage Middle East and Africa, we work with 53 different nationalities. So making sure that you are very, very sensitive to the cultural aspects, the timing, because the time differences are different. Working with global, when you are setting up time meetings, what kind of emails you set up, this kind of inclusion becomes very, very important to be successful. Otherwise, the work you're talking, and I also see a lot of questions which is coming up on employee well-being. So these are few thoughts I have. One is gender diversity, and also how do we include different nationalities of different kind of people, different cultures become very important. So Kavitha, to you.
I think as part of the diversity, it is also important to touch upon the post-COVID. How do we manage the positives in the organization, right? So that is also part of the diversity that comes into play. Kavitha?
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead.
Kavitha, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So the one aspect that I wanted to talk about, especially now in the post-COVID scenario, is prevention of harassment at the workplace, because I think that's important, especially for when we are leading teams virtually or when we are communicating with different employees. It becomes paramount importance that we use the right medium of communication, we use the right context when we are addressing diversity, especially if it's gender or anything else, and be very mindful and sensitive about the way we speak and what we speak. So I think this kind of sensitization to employees as to how they manage virtual scenarios is key as we move into this new normal. So I think, earlier we used to have these in terms of prevention of harassment at the workplace in the office. Now we need to move towards a sensitization where it is talking about prevention of any kind of harassment across the remote workplace as well.
Great. Dr. Mona and Dr. Arundhati, last question for you. Any one of you can take it. Your experience in consulting and research on the emotional engineering, wellness, and social engineering. What do you think? How this aspect would imbibe or reboot or look at the engineering perspective more from a pre or post COVID in a workplace scenario.
Yeah. Am I audible? Yeah. Yes. No. Mona, you start, then I'll continue. It's okay.
Okay. So, everybody here, Kavitha and everybody mentioned that stress is one important factor. So basically, what we also have noticed during our ergonomic evaluations, definitely one part that is, do you feel tired or fatigued, or do you have headaches quite often, or sometimes they do answer great questions like, do you feel stressed? Okay, and then when you start developing some kind of rapport, then they come up with this particular challenge that they're facing, which is not directly related to work, but definitely that is bugging them. So whenever a person is stressed, they have actually reported that they do experience some certain kind of pains over here. Spiritually also, I mean, if people believe in that, they do say that whenever a person has a denial to change, or they don't want to move ahead, they would have a leg problem, or so basically emotions are definitely going to manifest themselves into some kind of disease, whether it is a musculoskeletal disorder or repetitive strain injury, what we call, or the stress can actually lead you to many kind of diseases like your diabetes and hypertension and so many different things. So what we do generally in organizations, we have done these projects where we, apart from group trainings and one-on-one ergonomic sessions, so we also try and talk to the employees and just talk general also, so that they come up with their real problems. Once that real problem is answered in the sense catered to, you don't have to provide a solution. No, you have to do this. It is about how you manage it. So how are you going to take that? How a certain challenge is going to make you stronger. So basically some kind of motivation that also helps in their performance enhancement. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it was a good insight. Thanks for you people bringing in.
I just want to add. Yeah, I just want to add one thing here. Like we missed the topic about carbon design. Like when we are implementing, when we are stepping into this post-COVID like new work office, working from office concept, we can just include this carbon design concept. It's a new comprehensive systemic wayfinding design where we can now just replace the old systemic logics with new logics, because the whole system has changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's totally new. This organization is actually playing a good role in US, so we can just incorporate in our
design is what is going to be the key driver going forward, especially during post-COVID. I think there is going to be a lot of time and research that will happen around the carbon design.
It will help to process the overall tasks actually, with the starting from the analysis to implementation procedures. It's the whole thing actually.
Okay.
So we can conclude that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Kavitha, Arun, Dr. Mona, Hari, Dr. Arundhati, and Sriganesh for your time, and I appreciate when you have brought in a lot of value on the table in terms of the content experience and the thought leadership, and what is the way forward. And to sum it up, I think all these things put together in terms of the broad spectrum. Work science is all about workplace ecology, and in the workplace ecology, especially the post-COVID, there will be a lot of research innovation that is going to come in as part of work science is concerned, and there will also be a lot of effort in terms of redesigning now how work will be done going forward in a workplace environment, or from a new the new normal is concerned. So thank you very much, and I think we have a few questions as part of the Q&A. I think Basuraj. Basuraj, are you there?
The first one is, I'm there. The first question is, if work from home becomes the new normal, will the employee's state of mind be in a better status as he or she is with loved ones?
Anybody can take it, I suppose.
I would like to say, yeah, you are with your loved ones, but I mean, you could be one of those lucky people who is happy to work from home. There are people, in fact, domestic violence is on rise. There are people who are stressed just because you cannot really adjust with your own family members, differences. So difference of behavior or whatever. So sometimes the same can be a real hell, and everybody's condition at home may be different. So it is really challenging. But yes, obviously, if you can take it that way, I mean, nothing like home. That is definitely a great thing. So whatever we are learning now, if we could just follow that post-COVID also, it's going to give a good insight to us as a human being as well as organizations, and we need to carry forward that forever. That is why COVID has come.
Also, probably I can just add a point that how sustainable it is, how long you can continue working from home, and how your mental status, well-being is balanced between the work and the family life is very, very important, and it's very individual dependent.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Any other question, Basuraj?
Ergonomic chair works for avoiding back pain while working long hours. The question is whether the good ergonomic chair will avoid having the back pain when we work for long.
No, definitely a good ergonomic chair will help you to reduce the back pain, but not only a good ergonomic chair, your ergonomic habits to change your postures, like prolonged standing posture or prolonged sitting postures are not at all ideal even though you are using an ergonomic chair as well. So then a break is necessary. So just now Mona also explained that the 20-20-20 principle that IEA, that International Ergonomic Association, has already founded, that it should be a 20 minutes break. Every 20 minutes breaks, you are looking 20 feet away from your screen, and it's away from your workspace. So that principle should be maintained along with your other ergonomic accessories. So it's not solely the ergonomic chair. So your habits, your behaviors, and your postural changes are also taken into consideration when you want to avoid back pain, work-related back pain, and small stretchings and exercises in between them.
Absolutely.
So these are
Yeah. In fact, I would like to cite a study that we just conducted through ErgoCure. Basically, two companies which were offering best of environments to their employees. They were employee-friendly companies. They were taking, like you guys take them for off sites and providing them breakfast. Everything good. One of the companies provided them with standing tables and better ergonomic chairs with many adjustments. And one of the companies, they provided with basic ergonomic chair, good one, but less adjustable than company A, and a rotational basis standing table, while this one provided with every employee with this. And this best of furniture, okay, even with this company A, most of the employees, I mean, almost about 80, I can cite you the percentage, 86% of them still had some kind of MSDs. So MSDs could be your eye strain to back pain to neck pain to, so many other things included. And the other company also had similar, about 88%. So that was in fact any kind of population you take voting, and you would find 80% of them would be facing MSD regardless of their furniture. But as soon as the ergonomist intervention goes in, the percentage dropped in 3 months to 30% in company A. And in 6 months it reduced to 22%. That's a huge difference. So basically the use of that particular equipment is also important, and obviously, like Arundhati said, your stretches, overall lifestyle habits also make a difference. And the similar results were also observed when individual help was given to company B employees. So by 6 months, at 3 months we introduced the individual help, by 6 months they were comparable. So they were also at 28% as compared to,
right. I think we are running short of time. Thank you very much, Basuraj. If you want to have a closing statement, I think you can do it. And appreciate each one of your time, and look forward to reconnecting with you people once again in a different platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you, audience. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Basuraj. Thank you, all of you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks, Arun.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Basu.
Thanks, Arun.
Thank you, Basu.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.